Yeah, serves you right. For the light. Alright guys, so I'm just gonna sit here for a bit, guys. I want to just make this video. It's been a long time since I made a video. Alright, so for those who have subscribed to my channel here, and also on, excuse me, Twitch, I do want to say thank you, first and foremost. Hope you guys are doing well. I know it's been, as of late, definitely challenging times lately with the world and X, Y, and Z, whatever it is that's going on. I do wish you guys well nonetheless, and if things are going good, hey, God bless you guys. I hope you guys are doing alright. Either way it goes, from our side, you know what, God has blessed us, man. It's been, it's definitely been a long road these past few months on my side. I have just finished an education program. I will be pursuing another education program soon. Something more into less of a, you know, IT and computer fundamentals, things of that sort. So that's a little bit on my, you know, real life side. But everything's good. Isa RMC, Mika RMC is doing good. Definitely grateful as always. I do want to mention that for those of you guys who've been on my channel for a bit, you probably noticed that there's been basically a big drought of content or whatever. You know, for me, I'm still getting used to this stuff. I'm not, you know, I'm not probably going to be the most impressive. It is what it is, you know, but there's things I like to share. I have ideas and things I would like to do. And as of the recent months, I've been thinking about how I'm going to go about things with just, you say, life things, but also things with YouTube, things with, let's say, even with Twitch, and also with, you know, you say World of Warcraft. The reason why I mentioned this is because, like anybody else, I have my own history too with World of Warcraft. I definitely do enjoy a lot about this game, and that in itself, there's a lot to be said about that. But let me dial it back a bit. Let me dial it back. If you guys like the channel, by the way, please let me know if you like it. I actually like to know how you guys first encountered World of Warcraft. I'm going to go ahead and just talk about that in just a moment. But please let me know what you think, where you began, you know, what year did you start playing. And the reason why I asked that is because I started playing back in 2004. My first class was a rogue, you know what, and I got butchered. You know what I mean? I got completely trimmed out. So, I was just like, wow. Literally, when I died the first time. Now, I'm going to dial that back even further. My first encounter was Warcraft 2. Alright, I played Warcraft 2. Pretty interesting game. Didn't really do too high at it. And then, of course, there was, like, Who's Your Daddy? Power overwhelming kind of cheats, right? With even with Warcraft 3. So, with Warcraft 3, that's where I got a little bit more further immersed into the story. You know, you got the campaign modes. Of course, you got the melee also, you know. But I really wanted to know what was going on with the story, right? And I found it very interesting, you know. Being released, I think, back in 2003. Or not even, was it 2002, 2001? I'm not looking at anything in particular. I'm just running off memory. But, you know, Warcraft 3 told a pretty amazing story, and there's a lot of backing with Warcraft 3. I'll get back at that with. But I largely played the Night Elves, the Sentinel armies, you know, and it was a different type of Night Elf back at the time. It was a whole different kind of deal with the Night Elves, and the way World of Warcraft kind of portrayed them, they're kind of something different. Let's just say that. There are accuracies. There's definitely a lot of lore on them, and that's kind of the guy I am because, you know, I got really close to the lore back in Warcraft 3. I kind of understood what was going on, and there wasn't really as much details as there are today with World of Warcraft. So again, this kind of, what I'm saying to you guys, this kind of pivots or moves my direction of the lore and what I appreciate, you know, in World of Warcraft. So, you know, I didn't really do too hot with melee. I mean, I had a few victories, you know, but, you know, I practiced the map editor a little bit. I didn't do so good with that either. But again, it was just dabbling, you know, just freestyling. I happen to like my creations that I put together. But, of course, there's going to be a lot more. There's always going to be a lot more to learn. So, it was just pretty interesting. And I know those were the years where Dota came out and stuff like that out of, you know, the map editor with World of Warcraft. Then I also played StarCraft also. I definitely liked StarCraft. And I also liked, you know, more recently, Heroes of the Storm. Again, you know, I've been around Blizzard for a long time when I was younger. So, what I mean to get at is basically, you know, with these type of beginnings, you know, the Horde versus the Alliance, in this case World of Warcraft. Excuse me about that. But even dialing back to Warcraft 3, there was a lot of war. You know what I mean? I know it sounds funny saying that, but there was literal disputes, there was issues, there was territorial disputes, there was problems, you know, with the Horde, just onslaughts of damage and just population dropping left and right, corruptive magic, X, Y, and Z. You guys know, I don't have to explain everything. For those of you guys who've been in World of Warcraft for a while, again, please toss it in the comments. Let me know where you came from in World of Warcraft. For me, as you guys already know, with Warcraft 3, I did like, well, as I was talking about earlier, is I like how there's different conflicts going on. You know, Reign of Chaos and the Frozen Throne. You know, Reign of Chaos, you know, the Burning Legion is planning their, I guess, their second or third assault on Azeroth. And that's done through the Scourge, through the Lich King, in this case, former Paladin Arthas, who chose, obviously, the dark side, right? So, and there's a lot of things to be enjoyed with that. I mean, as basic as the story was, it was a nice spot. It was pretty good. I could say that I admire it. So, of course, you know, for those of you who's been in Warcraft for a while, you took the adventure on with World of Warcraft, right? You know, of course, you have Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos, and then the Frozen Throne, when Arthas becomes, you know, basically full-on Lich King, right? And everything attached to it. I mean, you got the Blood Elf, High Elf Crisis. I mean, you know, I'm playing a High Elf right now. You know, that's pretty cool. You know, you don't get that option very often, right? So it's nice. And obviously, you could guys see that I'm on Turtle Well, and I'm also on COA, private servers. You know, people have different reasons why and how they got to the private server side, right? And which I'm going to get to in a moment. But it was a good time. I believe up to Legion, actually more closely, a little bit BF8, and then softly Dragonflight. I say softly because I wasn't really about it with Dragonflight. Didn't hate it. There was things, I'm sure even right now on the retail side, I'm sure there's things to enjoy with retail, but it's a direction that I don't fully agree with. It's not Warcraft that I grew up with. Alright, for those of you guys who had your own favorite TV show, whatever it is, you know, some of you guys are big about the Avengers, some of you are big about, I'm sorry, my camera's been like up there. Some of you guys have been around like Marvel and all that other stuff, if not DC, right, or Lord of the Rings. You know, for me it was Warcraft. All right, that's what I've been around, and I just want to say, like, I really did appreciate how there was conflict. All right, because to be honest with you, and this is kind of personal and deep with me. To be honest with you, it's what inspired me. That, you know, among these different armies, that they're able to come together and take down the Legion. You know, Mount Hyjal in Warcraft 3. Right? So, for me, that kind of gave me a sense of, you know, I guess you'd say a sense of bravery. Like, hey, look, I'd like to see if I could check into what it's like to be like this. What's it like to stand for your nation, or to stand and protect something you believe in, right? So, what I'm getting at is, it's also helped me make a life choice, which I'll get to later on. But, basically, there was a lot of identity with Warcraft 3. Now, you bring that over to World of Warcraft, that identity was still there. Maybe not as highlighted, right? Because you have the Night Elves with the Alliance. You got the Horde with... I'm sorry, you got the Undead with the Horde, or the Forsaken, if you will, in particular. That itself creates a pretty interesting story, too. Although different, maybe some people will disagree that the Undead should have been its own faction, the Night Elves should have been its own faction. That, too, that along with it would have told its own story as well. Many things has happened in World of Warcraft. I don't need to get into the whole details of it. You guys know what expansions you guys been in and the expansions that you guys missed. But as the story progressed, the world became a bigger place. You know, it became more than just these two continents, right? So as the story expanded, there started to become more stories. And then there was maybe conflict between the stories, right? Information gets updated. I guess, what's the term? Retconned, or, you know, things got switched around. And ultimately, we're up to the point where now we're at a time where we believe, as of recently, what I've come to find out is that World of Warcraft is an intimidating name. It's an intimidating thing to call it, I guess you'd say. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys on that. Alright. Now, again, going back to me, I did appreciate Legion. I'm going to tell a bit more about myself in a few, but I want to kind of puzzle piece this in. Again, I'm trying not to really edit this video. I want to keep this as legit and authentic as it is, so there might be some leeway and stuff, but I'm going to get to my points. I don't have anything written down, so I just wanted to, you know, communicate this. So, as the game expanded, I know people will joke around, Mr. Pandaria, you know, hey, look, I actually like the Pandaren, I'll be honest with you. I played the Brewmaster, playing back in Warcraft 3. So all you guys calling Kung Fu Panda, I mean, that was probably around the time you got the wrong guy. You know what I'm saying? Chen Stormstout. He actually, more so on the Horde, he aided the Horde in becoming of development. That wasn't something that was really extended upon. And let me dial back a bit, going back to vanilla World of Warcraft. I'm going to kind of take us kind of through the chain a bit. Not every expansion, but see if you could just follow through with me. With vanilla, you have the Night Elves, you have the Forsaken. We all know what's really traditionally Horde, or, well, mostly makes sense, is the Tauren, the Orcs, and the Trolls. The Darkspear Trolls in particular. Alright? And there's many Tauren groups, right? So the Mulgore Tauren in particular. Alright, what do they call it? The Shu-Halo or so? I haven't played Horde much. Truthfully, it's something I'd like to do. Now, going back to my home faction, the Alliance, what's up? It is what it is, you know what I mean? That's where I started, right? And again, my thing was mostly with the Night Elf side, because that's what I played from Warcraft 3. The Night Elves have their own identity. I wasn't really all into the humans, dwarves, and gnomes. Eventually I did, because they're part of the faction. But, the Night Elf story is pretty... It makes it pretty, you know, it stands out. You know, and it's very different. And it's full of lore, full of story. So, if you guys haven't noticed already, I happen to like lore a lot in World of Warcraft. Could it be that when the Night Elves got in, and the undead came in, that there would have been maybe kind of like a transformative type of experience as far as leveling up, right? You know what I'm saying? You start strictly Night Elf, and then you kind of get communicated with the Alliance. You know what I'm saying? And they go over the reasons why they even got together in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Some actual dialogue. We're talking about, like, humans and Stormwind engaging the Night Elves for the first time, trying to find out where they would fit and see what's going on with them and how they could aid each other, especially in their presence in Kalimdor, knowing that the Horde is in the Kalimdor. The Night Elves, of course, they need the support from the Alliance as well. That creates interest right there. That very simple fact. Reverse it. On the flip side, you have the Horde. Why is it that the Forsaken are even tolerated? Why? I mean, there's a lot of story elements that explain why. There's a couple of quest lines, sure. But how come there wasn't something that was fully fleshed out? Maybe not right away, right? But maybe over time. This is stuff that has always been in the World of Warcraft game. So what I'm saying is, as far as story elements, mind you, it doesn't have to be a cinematic. It could have been. It doesn't have to be. Why couldn't it have been that there's an introductory quest? You know, you have starting zones for a reason, right? So why not be more of an ambassador type? Or maybe, let me separate it a bit more. Why not have a campaign mode that go deeper into these details? Because they're already in the game. It already pre-exists. Now, mind you, it's at, you know, it's the year 2026 right now. Stuff is not new. And it's what makes World of Warcraft World of Warcraft. You know, there's a faction that has an issue, that has a problem, there's a presence of another enemy, just like in real life, territorial disputes, you would say, or there's, you would say the political side of it, you would say just their obvious differences, night and day, X, Y, and Z, the list goes on, and it creates conflict. So that's why I found it to be very interesting to me in World of Warcraft, that these factions got this thing going on. And you would say, and as I heard one of the other big YouTubers, Nixium, as he mentioned, you know, they, I'm trying to remember, they reluctantly helped each other. You know, I mean, he's up there. So, anyway, as far as my side, I could nod to that. They reluctantly helped each other. They're not buddies, okay? They're not sitting with each other and just camping out. You know what I'm saying? No, there's a big baddie, and if we don't take them down, we're all gonna die, right? It's kind of that thing. And then their squabbles in between, right? But again, understand the name. It's World of Warcraft. That's the point. You would say it's linear. It makes sense. The proof is in the pudding. Alright? So that's what I was just wanted to mention to you guys. Where do you guys think, or what do you guys think, or where is your minds at when it comes to this company, Blizzard, who's saying that Warcraft feels intimidating? You know what I mean? Like, that's, you know, that's kind of crazy. You know, their own company is asking, or not asking, but, well, yeah, I guess they was asking, like, why did they name it World of Warcraft? It feels too intimidating. You know, so I don't want to be all about that video. There was a recent video on that. I think it's from the Gaming Business channel. Let me see if I could just get the actual layout here real quick. I'm going to cross-check on my side. But excuse me, sorry. I had a pretty powerful burger earlier, so yeah, I apologize for that. But yeah, yeah, the Game Business. All right, you look up the YouTube channel. I'll probably post a link there. It has a bit of length to it, the video, but there's lots and lots of information on that. And again, you know what? There's a business standpoint on that too, so it is what it is. I can't commentate on business so much. It's not a topic I'm too learned on, so I don't really want to go too overboard with that. But what I do want to say is there's a lot of truth in it. You know, they're going to cater to the audiences that you would say more or less support, you know, the game, right? So regardless of what audience or how you identify X, Y, and Z, whatever demographic you find yourself in, you may not represent, quote-unquote, the majority of what they're getting their income from. I don't know. I can't explain the logistics behind it, or the science or the systems behind all of that. I'm not really qualified to do so in particular. But I just have an observance as someone who loves the Warcraft game. Someone who loves the Warcraft franchise. Who's been around it, you know, pretty much, I guess, half of my existence. Alright, so again, when you like something, right? Going back to it though, the identity of World of Warcraft has shifted and changed over the years. There's a lot that could be said about it. In a lot of ways, I like the direction that it's gone. Maybe more so on the Legion side. Again, there was a few things that people didn't like. I don't know. I'm not the popular majority of the World of Warcraft community. I'm only but one person out of maybe a minority. I don't even like saying that, but out of a minority of World of Warcraft players. Alright. So, if you guys see my other videos, you know me to the extent that I do like this game. And I don't want to keep repeating that, but what I want to mention is just like, you know, going through, let's say TBC, okay. It was still Warcraft, TBC. Alright, so I already said my bit about vanilla, and there's much more about vanilla. I mean, many people already know. You know what? Some of y'all already know. Some of y'all who's on the retail side probably already know. Or those of you in the private server, I mean, Turtle WoW is quite popular, right? And you got this going on, and you got all this going on right here. All right, I'm gonna leave it at that. All right, you got all this going on. Check this. All right, and that's just one side. Okay, I'll let that sit for a bit. So, what I'm getting at, guys, is you know, for example, the vanilla world has been maximized. At least, you know, my observance in the private server side, Turtle WoW, they happen to cover a lot of the open spaces that remain in the world, a lot of stuff, a lot of stories and quests that's been added in. Majority, I would say, I appreciate them, but, you know, it's a different style. It's still referred as, you would say, a classic style server. But let me get back to my experience with the other expansions. So with TBC, Wrath of the Lich King, although very different, Illidan, Arthas, right? Big named guys, right? Lore figures. It's a big deal, you know what I'm saying? And although we look back at it, we may not have liked TBC that much. We may not have liked Wrath of the Lich King that much. I don't know. A lot of people feel like they see Wrath of the Lich King as, you would say, the standard, the 1, 2, 3, the TBC, and then Wrath of the Lich King. I will go a step further. There are things that I did appreciate with Cataclysm. Again, maybe just not like with everybody in their common opinion. There are things that I liked. There are things that I didn't like. it is what it is. You know, the old world got shattered and broken. I mean, for better or worse, you know, you got flying that's available to the open world, and then also you had flying. You had extra flight points, right? In Cataclysm, you also had different class race combinations. I find those to be positive things. Now, the world is not as, you know, as it was in the vanilla state, no, but it added some different dynamics to the game. You know, there's other areas that were open. You know, Hyjal, Old Doom. You got also. You also have, you know, what is it? I'm trying to remember. The Maelstrom. Within the Maelstrom Deep Hole, you have Gilneas that was opened up. Oh, what was the other area for the end game? Vajir. Yeah, Vajir was the other one. I think Tolbarad. You also have, I don't think you could go back to it. Maybe now you can, but yeah, the Goblin starting zone. And you also had a few other zones that were opened up. So I believe, more or less, it still improved the game as far as exploration, but that's the other thing with flying and exploration. You know, a lot of things could be said with that, right? And we're going to move on. We're going to move on. So then we have, after Cataclysm, I'm just going to cross-check myself. I think we had Mr. Pandaria moving on to Warlords of Draenor. Now, again, I did say about Mr. Pandaria earlier with, you know, Chenstorm style, but also the Wandering Isle was a pretty interesting concept. You know, myself as an Asian person, you know, I can admire some of the Asian observations, you know, references that they've put in Mr. Pandaria. As, you know, again, I could identify with that, right? Did I like everything about Mr. Pandaria? I didn't really hate it, but it was just interesting that it was the first neutral race that was added in. And maybe people, again, I know there's mixed opinions on that, but they just left it at that. The Tuishi and, if I'm saying that right, whatever, the Huijin, Pandaren, they're two different ideas and mindsets of thinking. They didn't really do a whole lot with these Pandaren. You know, if anything, in BFA, they barely had any conflict with each other. I think there was like one elite Huijin Pandaren over in, what is it? Where the Blood Trolls are, in Zandalar, or Zuldazar, whichever. I can't recall the name right now. But anyway, if you guys played BFA, I think you'll know what I'm talking about. They kind of left Pandaren in the dirt, and truthfully, I didn't like that. I didn't like that. They could have, and I believe they should have done something more with that. Because it was still considered, I guess you would say, a core race. And they just kind of left it, you know. Then there's the allied races, you know, go to BFA. But I know I skipped Legion, so, and I skipped Warlords. Warlords, I'll keep it at this. With Warlords, there was a thing with the garrisons, right? People didn't like it. Solo progression, probably right up the alley, right? It might be something that you'd enjoy, but as far as anything else, not everyone, you know, you kind of just stayed shut in your garrison, right? Of course, there was the Draenor world. I liked the art. The art was on point. The music was on point. I believe they did good in a lot of ways, but from what I heard and what I've understand, Warlords was not even a full project. It was not fully established. A lot could be said about that, you know what I mean? But that's was it Farallon or something like that? That was a territory that was supposed to be released, and I don't know. I mean, the old school Draenor planet. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could expand that, but it was an alternate universe, World of Warcraft, more or less. AU, you know, not Australia. Hello, mate. Sorry. But what I mean to say is just that I believe it was still a good expansion pack. I was able to appreciate some things. I don't know. I'm just wired that way. It is what it is. Whether you like it or not, this is me. I try to look at the positive of what each expansion pack put. So I wouldn't outright hate it. There might be some low points. You know, again, PvP. I see. You notice that I didn't talk about PvP because I don't PvP that much. But I don't mind going for a duel or so. But my whole zone or my whole thing was the story, the Warcraft story. That's where I started off. That's the way I've been. And that's what I've enjoyed about it. It was still Warcraft. Warlords of Draenor was still Warcraft. With Warcraft 3, how you built your own base, you would have your gold mine, right? And your lumber, right? I don't think they put lumber in Warlords. I don't think. No, they did. They did. It's been such a long time. Anyway, if you guys recall, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think about that. But yeah, so going from Warlords, I mean, it told a different story. A lot of events took place. Then we got Gul'dan of the past hitting at us at Legion. That's where I was at. That is where I was at. And you know what? Look, I could nod to Blizzard. Now I say thank you to Blizzard. I do. But it's a different generation now. Things have changed. Going to Legion, I could see. Look, they did it right. You know what? Stormheim, they had a little bit of that faction conflict going on. I mean, Gilneas was a big deal, all right, with Greymane and all that, and then Sylvanas. You know, I liked how that was kind of incorporated. It wasn't the focus; it was a secondary concern. Sylvanas was pursuing more power, and Greymane stopped her. You know what I'm saying? I felt that was an awesome thing. Not even because of faction, but because of actual lore and story. It added much more to it. It felt like Warcraft. That's what I'm saying. There was a conflict. Among the conflicts that were already happening. Emerald Nightmare. Legion, point blank. You have the Nightborn circumstance. High Mountain Tauren. You got the, what is it called? Those guys, the Valkyr. No, not the Valkyr. The other guys. The Vrykul, if I'm saying that right. Those guys. And many other things. Then you got the class order halls. You also have the artifact weapons. Now AP, whatever, you got every other paladin holding the Retribution paladin holding the Ashbringer. You got every druid holding the Scythe of Elune, and you got every other monk holding was it the fists? The fist weapons? Oh, okay, what's the other one? Shealun, the staff of what do you call it? I think the crane? I don't remember the entire, it's been such a long time. I appreciated that. For every spec, there was a quest line that gave you your artifact weapon for your spec. If that wasn't enough, you had your own class order hall. In my opinion, because everyone, is not in favor of the Legion, they banded together. I felt like it was neutral done right. I'm saying, if you're going to go for a neutral World of Warcraft, go ahead and give them class order halls. Each class had a mission. The mage had their own mission. The warlocks had their own mission. The Death Knights too. The Death Knight campaign in the Legion expansion pack, oh my man, it was good. It was Warcraft. It was smack right out to the center of Warcraft. Conflicts upon conflicts. If they really wanted to, Legion could have been its own game, and it would still be World of Warcraft. We move on. So after Legion, BFA, factions, yeah, sure. It was a bit more negative. I don't know. Not everybody really wanted to go back to war with each other. For me, I was like, yeah, cool, let's do it. Because, again, that's where I started. From way back. So, how it turned out, and what stories it told, I played through the campaigns on both sides. I did unlock the allied races. Also on Legion side, too, the Void Elves. It was a pretty interesting thing at the time. Again, what it became and how it is now, it's still a different story. But, the story is so expansive right now. With BFA, there was just a lot more territories to explore. It was, 2 continents, basically, but they're relatively small. The graphics were on point. The music was on point, I believe. As typical, it will always be on point. Just in general, that's kind of like standard, it seems. But then the gameplay, people complained, and then there was Nazjatar that opened up. You got also the Mechagon City, I think, or Mechagon. Excuse me. And they enabled a lot more allied races. You got the Golterians and the Large Troll. What I happen to like, I'll give my high points on it, is that there was faction conflict, like in the game campaign side. Excuse me. So, I know there's a lot to be said about all of this stuff, but basically, in short, the story became quite different afterward. After BFA was Shadowlands, that I'm gonna spit it out right now. That was enough to become its own game. But I do want to say, I hope you guys have a good day. All right, wherever you guys are and whatever it is that you guys are doing.